On the 12-mile road, everybody's going to turn right for safety purposes. Thank you.
Good morning, good Yom Kippur, good Shabbos. It's nice to see everybody here. We still have a lot of people streaming in. I think there were a little bit of traffic problems, so feel free to just come on in. I want to thank once again our wonderful musicians who did such a lovely job last night. We're looking forward to hearing you this morning. A couple of very quick announcements just to show you some of the highlights that are coming up at the congregation. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m., in conjunction with the Jewish Gay Network of Michigan out of the JCC, we are hosting a bipartisan candidate forum here in the meeting room. It should be very interesting. It's not necessarily a head-to-head debate. It's going to be candidates for a variety of different offices that we were able to get, so I hope you'll join us. A couple of highlights coming up. On October 10th, we'll have our Sukkot service, which will, I don't know if you know, Sukkot also features a theme of diversity, and in honor of that, we have invited Bria Crutchfield, who is the founding president of the Black Non-Theists of Michigan, I believe the name of the organization is, and she is going to talk to us about the topic diversity. So easy, even you can do it. On October 17th, we have no Shabbat service because we have our rummage sale, but we do have an alternative activity. I hope as many of you as possible will join me at the Hartford Memorial Baptist Church for a 6 p.m. Social Justice Conference. It'll go from 6 to 8, featuring Anthony Crump, I think I got his first name correct, who is the attorney for both Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown of Ferguson, of the murder, of the shooting in Ferguson. On October 24th, we are debuting something very new here, a children's service, a children and family service. So if you have grandchildren, here's an opportunity. It'll be a half an hour followed by a very inexpensive, $5 a person, 12 and under free Shabbat dinner. And so I hope you'll join us for that with great music. And finally, although there are many other things coming up, on November 7th, which is a Friday night, rather than our normal Shabbat service, we are going to host a special screening of a movie called Unorthodox, which was actually co-produced by Judy Freund's Great Niece, correct? It is on its way, we're catching it between film festivals as it's on its way to the London Film Festival. This is a wonderful portrayal of what happens to a number of Orthodox children when they go to their year in Israel. And having invested some tens of thousands of dollars in such a program, for those of you who know me, if you don't, I'll explain why later, I'm fascinated to see what it is. Our readers today, Harriet is in for Jackie. And Bonnie's in for Barbara. Okay. Well, I have Paula Creed, Joe Gage, Barbara Kopitz, Jerry Vidra, Alan Becker, Nancy Simpson, Nancy Peshkin, Mark Hirsch, Patty Becker, Ron Creed, Rosalie Young, Skip Siegel, and Noreen Zimmer. And finally, I would like to invite Steve Blum, our board treasurer, to share some words with you.
Welcome. As treasurer, I get to update you on participation in our temple fundraiser. We're now at 47% participation. Our goal is 100% participation, and funds go to support our building, things like our electric system. This makes the temple better for your activities and events, more efficient for our temple staff, more attractive for renters who are an important source of temple income, and safer for everyone. So please, if you haven't already done so, we invite you to fill out one of the pledge cards that you'll find inside your program for today, and drop it off in one of the baskets by the door on your way out. Together, let's see how close we can get to 100% participation.
We begin our service at the beginning. I was going to say page 1, but I don't know the page number. And on the 10th 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy gathering for you. ועשור לחודש השביעי הזה, יום הכיפורים הוא, מקרא קודש יהיה לכם. Yom Kippur is an end and a beginning. The Jewish New Year stretches from the evening of Rosh Hashanah to the afternoon of Yom Kippur. In these 10 days, we improve our lives. We cannot change the past, but we can learn from our past to affect our future. In these 10 days, we start the new year on the right note. Yom Kippur is the end of this beginning. Just as the Jewish New Year is a process, so too is self-examination. We face ourselves honestly, which requires courage. We explore our relations with each other, which demands commitment. We discover what we truly feel and believe, which takes time. Today is the time for courage and commitment. Today is Yom Kippur.
Please join together and sing with us, He My Hold. Questions. Let us ask ourselves hard questions, for this is the time of truth. How much time did we waste in the year that is now gone? Did we fill our days with life, or were they dull and empty? Was there love inside our home, or was the affectionate word left unsaid? Was there a real companionship with our children, or was there a living together and a growing apart? Were we a help to our mates, or did we take them for granted? How was it with our friends? Were we there when they needed us or not? The kind deed, did we perform it or postpone it? The unnecessary jibe, did we say it or hold it in? Did we live by false values? Did we deceive ourselves? Oh, I messed up. Did we deceive others? Did we deceive ourselves? Were we sensitive to the rights and feelings of those who worked with us? Did we acquire only possessions, or did we acquire new insights as well? Did we fear what the crowd would say and keep quiet when we should have spoken? Did we mind only our own business, or did we feel the heartbreak of others? Did we live right? And if not, then have we learned and will we change? Please join together and sing.
Ishmael Kippur is a day of forgiveness. We see ugliness all around. We are indignant and impatient. It is hard to forgive a world that defies our ideals. It is easy to bear a grudge or point an accusing finger. Mistakes are human and rarely lovable. Yet forgiveness is not born out of love. It emerges from an urgent need to use our energies more profitably, to move on with our lives. Yom Kippur is a day of self-forgiveness. Our harshest judge is not to be found among family or friends. It is the permanent tribunal of our own conscience. The chief prosecutor of our psyche works day and night, bringing charges and laying out evidence. The wise person knows that the proper function of the conscience is to help plan for the future. We must find forgiveness in our hearts for ourselves if we are to find a brighter tomorrow.
Let's all sing together in full harmony, Where is My Light?
Today we see ourselves as we truly are. How do we review the record of our deeds from this past year? How do we evaluate the quality of our existence? We cannot blame our conduct on forces beyond our control. With our own hand, we write and seal the record of our own deeds. We are fully responsible for the quality of our life, for making the most of it or the least of it. On Rosh Hashanah, we reflect. On Yom Kippur, we consider. Who shall live for the sake of others? Who shall leave a heritage of life? Who shall hunger for good? Who shall thirst for justice and right? Whose tongue shall be a thrusting sword? Whose words shall make for peace? Who shall be plagued by fear of the world? Who shall strangle for lack of friends? Who shall rest at the end of day? Who lies sleepless on a bed of pain? Who shall go forth in the quest for truth? Who shall be locked in the prison of self? Who shall be serene in every storm? Who shall be troubled by the passing breeze? Who shall be poor in the midst of possessions? Who shall be rich and content with their lot? We seek to forgive ourselves and others the past. We seek to experience a sense of renewal for tomorrow. May we go forth with rejoicing to a year of great goodness, which we shall inscribe in our book of life.
confessing. Our misdeeds constitute a veritable alphabet of unethical behaviors.
The offense of arrogance, bigotry, and cynicism, of deceit and egotism, flattery and greed, injustice and jealousy.
Some of us kept grudges, were liars, malicious or narrow-minded.
Others were obstinate or possessive, quarrelsome, rancorous, or selfish.
There was violence, weakness of will, xenophobia.
We yielded to temptation and were zealous for questionable ends.
We invite you to sing with us. Chayim Anachnu, we look for the right thing to do.
We have sinned against life by failing to work for peace.
We have sinned against life by keeping silent in the face of injustice.
We have sinned against life by ignoring those who suffer in distant lands.
We have sinned against life by forgetting the poor in our own midst.
We have failed to respect others.
We have withheld our love from those who depend on us.
We have engaged in gossip and in repeated slander.
We have distorted the truth for our own advantage.
We have conformed to fashion and not to conscience.
We have indulged in despair and tried with sinners.
We have wronged ourselves by failing to rise to the best that is in us.
Please join together and sing.
Words from the past. Isaiah, prophet of ancient Israel, chastises people for turning their backs on the needy and for failing to create a just society. His words were so powerful that hundreds of years later, the rabbis of old decreed that Jews must read them every Yom Kippur. Adapted from Isaiah 58, lines 5 through 10. Is this an acceptable fast? A day for people to afflict their souls? Is it to bow down their heads like bulrushes and spread sackcloth and ashes beneath them? Is such what you call a fast? Is not this an acceptable fast? To loosen the fetters of evil and untie the bonds of every yoke, to let the oppressed go free. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and to bring the outcast poor to your house? When you see the naked, that you cover them, and not to ignore your fellow kin, then shall your light burst forth like the dawn in your body and spirit. Then shall your righteousness be visible to all. If you remove the chains of oppression, the menacing hand, the words of malice, and if you offer compassion to the needy and relieve the afflicted soul, then shall your light shine in darkness and your night become as bright as day.
We invite you to sing with us Al Shoshat Devarim, which is our next song. You'll notice that the words, when musically set, are slightly changed in order. In your book it may say Al Hadi ve'al ha'emet ve'al ha'shalom. In the music, we will reverse that order and sing Al ha'emet ve'al hadi ve'al ha'shalom. Please sing with us.
Hold on. Hold on to your hand when you are about to do an unkind act. Hold on to your tongue when you are just ready to speak harshly. Hold on to your heart when evil persons invite you to join their ranks. Hold on to your temper when you are excited or angry, or others are angry with you. Hold on to the truth, for it will serve you well and do you good throughout your life. Hold on to your integrity, for it is above all price to you in all times and places. Hold on to your character, for it is and ever will be your best wealth.
Let's sing together.
To breathe a life that is Yom Kippur is a day of truth. We have considered our past and decided not to hide from its reality. We have looked into our future, and we do not fill its spaces with fantasies of our desire. We cannot return to the past. We can only step into the future. We resolve this day to choose courage. We will not surrender to fear of the unknown. We will seek wisdom wherever it may be found and allow it to nurture our strength. Yom Kippur is a day of hope. We will not endorse despair. We will not turn problems into mysteries so that we never learn to solve them. Our optimism is our survival, and we will allow it to nurture our will to live. We resolve this day to live in the truth. We resolve this day to embrace hope.
Let's sing together some key.
It is never too late. The last word has not been spoken. The last sentence has not been written. The final verdict is not in. It's never too late to change my mind, my direction, to say no to the past and yes to the future, to offer remorse, to ask and give forgiveness. It is never too late to start over again, to feel again, to love again, to hope again.
This passage is a little tricky, and you might want to try to substitute maybe opportunity for gates, and it's more understandable. When a person begins life, countless gates stand waiting to be opened. The gates do not stay open forever. We walk through the years, and they shut behind us. And at the end, they are all closed. Except the one final gate, which we must enter. Before it's too late, let us open the gates that lead to blessing.
Let us enter the gates of tranquility.
Let us enter the gates of kindness and compassion.
Let us open the gates to those things in life that abide eternally.
Before the gates swing shut, before all of them close, do not remain standing at the outer gate. The gates are to be entered. The sun is low. The hour is late. Let us enter the gate at last.
Let's sing together.
This song will go,
Peace. We seek peace. It is the most precious gift we can bestow upon ourselves. May we find the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. May our country always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. May we strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands. And may the love of humanity permeate every home and every heart. May we labor for righteousness, and in so doing, author a new book of life, a blessing and peace. For we alone are the source of peace.
Join us now in singing Namaste Shalom.
One final blast of the shofar this season, we express our deepest hopes for a year of pardon and forgiveness, a year of respect and integrity, a year of love and blessing, a year of health and well-being, a year of harmony and contentment, a year of joy and wonder, a year of peace. Kiat Olam. Where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support. Those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. May all who suffer know that they are not alone. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a complete recovery, refuah shlema, the renewal of body and the renewal of spirit.
Let us all join together and sing.
Find the courage to make our life In memoriam. If some messenger were to come to us with the offer that death should be overthrown, but with the one inseparable condition that birth should also cease. If the existing generation were given the chance to live forever, but on the clear understanding that never again would there ever be a child, or a youth, or a first love. Never again new persons with new hopes, new ideas, new achievements, ourselves for always and never for any others. Could the answer be in doubt?
We must not fear death. We must remember those who have gone before us and those who will come after us.
Let us treasure the time we have and resolve to do it well, counting each moment precious, a chance to apprehend some truth, to experience some beauty, to conquer some evil, to relieve some suffering, to love and be loved, and to achieve something of lasting worth.
May we fulfill the promise that is in each of us, and so conduct ourselves that generations hence, it will be true to say of us, the world is better because of the free space that they live in.
Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and all those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. Yehi zichron livracha, in memories of them, provide blessing. If you can do so comfortably, please rise for the humanistic Judaism. Mit gadal v'nit kadash b'ruach ha'adam. Let us enhance and exalt ourselves in the spirit of humanity. Let us claim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we suffer with its parts. Let us, each in our own way, take up our share, serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May healing and peace permeate and comfort all of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yihi, may it be so. Please be seated.
I invite Deborah Luria to join us for special music.
Well, last year after we sang, I had many people come up to me, and it wasn't to compliment me on my singing. It was to comment that I hadn't worn a hat. So this year, I made sure I came prepared, and I want you to know that a couple of years ago, because I love my hat, Sandy Landau came up to me and she gave me a hat pin holder and all of her old antique hat pins. So I got my Sandy Landau hat pin in, and her energy with me, and I got my hat on so that I don't disappoint. We seem to be so busy these days, don't we? I always thought life would slow down once my children grew up, but it seems like it's just sped up by my estimation. I wonder if in this new year we can commit, when possible, to taking a moment to stop, to notice our surroundings, to remember by whom we are loved and who we love. Be grateful for our good fortune and to feel some peace, a moment of pure simplification. Like the soft, comforting tones of a mother's lullaby, we can feel calm. This is an excellent segue for me to announce the birth of our still-to-be-named granddaughter, who was born on Monday. And also let you know that there's been a Luria family baby explosion. We've had 7 second cousins born in the last 3 years, and my brother and sister-in-law have a new baby boy, Shai, born 2 weeks ago today, right? So yes. Let's see, our daughter, what I want to do is sing to you the way our daughter sings to her children, softly to sleep each night, as I did to my children. Today we'll sing you a beautiful lullaby to think about calm, to think about simplicity. Sung in Ladino, the language of the Sephardim. Take in the simplicity of our voices and feel the beauty of song. From the songs of life, this lullaby, Durme, durme, sleep, sleep, reads sleep, sleep, mother's little one, free from worry and grief. Wouldn't that be nice? Listen, my joy, to your mother's words. Sleep, sleep, mother's little one, with the beauty of Shema Yisrael.
secular humanists, particularly those of us who came to our conclusions as adults, started out with questions that we had about traditional religion. These frequently concerned the various explanatory claims of the various scriptures, in particular, those claims having to do with the origins of the earth and the universe. These, of course, were increasingly cast into doubt as the discoveries of science revealed a much more complicated story than did the first chapters of Genesis. Many of us also questioned other elements of traditional stories, such as the Jewish idea that Abraham was the first monotheist whom God chose to bring his message to the world, or the Christian idea that God sacrificed his only begotten Son to demonstrate love for a sinning humanity. One by one, those of us who arrived at our secular humanistic conclusions did so, at least in part, because of our exposure to better facts about the origins of the world, or because we found claims about special prophecy or chosenness to be incompatible with the reality of the world. The entire new atheist book industry was built on answering questions that people had about these claims of traditional religion, trying to provide better alternatives. Many of these books feature in-depth explorations of what science has revealed and how it contradicts our traditional narratives. Richard Dawkins' enormous bestseller, The God Delusion, presents much of its argument as a primer on evolution through natural selection, focusing much less successfully on philosophical or theological challenges to theistic faith. But there remain people, including some scientists and those liberal religious thinkers who reject a literalist or fundamentalist reading of their scriptures, who have argued that science's discoveries need not dissuade one from pursuing a life of religious faith. Liberal religious leaders claim that if we read the scriptures properly, that is to say, with an appreciation of the religious genius of its authors, despite their pre-scientific worldviews, we need not identify any contradictions whatsoever between religion and the discoveries of science. One very prominent scientist, the late evolutionary biologist Stephen Jay Gould, even worked out a formula that he believed would eliminate the tensions between science and religion. Though he himself was an atheist, Gould was persuaded by some contemporary, non-fundamentalist theologians that religion and science need not be incompatible so long as each stays out of the way, out of the realm of the other. To science, they said, we will yield the realm of facts, and to religion, we will grant the realm of values. Gould even gave this formula a name, calling it the principle of non-overlapping magisteria. It's a mouthful, so we sometimes refer to it as NOMA for short. It assigned the responsibility of explaining phenomena such as evolution, gravity, and so forth, in other words, what is, to science. And it assigned religion the task of exploring why what is matters and how. Now, this is a very exciting idea for many liberal, non-fundamentalist religious people, such as my Reform and conservative rabbinical colleagues or mainline Protestants. And it is what helps them to accept most of the factual evidence provided by science. Just last Sunday, in the New York Times, David Barish, an evolutionary psychologist and professor of psychology at the University of Washington, explained the principle of NOMA this way. If God exists, NOMA teaches, then he could have employed anything under the sun or beyond it to work his will. Hence, there is nothing in evolutionary biology that necessarily precludes religion, save for the most fundamentalist versions. But Dr. Barish is no fan of NOMA. He hastened to add that these magisteria are not nearly as non-overlapping as some might wish. Because mechanical explanations of the origins of the universe are not really the only difficult challenge that science presents to religion. He's absolutely correct. Even medieval rabbis, like the 11th century Rashi, understood enough about the world to know that the grass and trees couldn't really have been created before the sun, and that therefore Genesis did not provide a complete account of God's act of creation. No, the real challenge of science to religion is that it removed the earth and we human beings from the center of the universe. And the implications of this reality bring science crashing right down onto religion's magisterium. Suddenly, they're not so non-overlapping anymore. But while Gould may have been wrong about the non-overlapping magisteria, he was really correct about one thing. The scientific method was not designed to deal primarily with questions of value or answer questions about the meaning or purpose of life. For while science can provide us with a perspective on our place in the universe, it cannot tell us how to make our lives truly matter. Moreover, religion has not succeeded simply because it provided explanatory folk tales regarding the creation of the earth. I can assure you that most Jews, for example, reject the accounts in Genesis. No, religion has succeeded because it has offered a pathway for human beings to find meaning in being alive. By providing humanity with compelling arguments about God's love and devotion to us, expressed in the Genesis idea that humanity was created b'tselem Elohim, in God's likeness and image, and about our duty to serve and love God as a consequence of this relationship. It is this idea, not any specific stories about the origins of the universe, that explains religion's special role in the lives of the vast majority of human beings. It is quite simply their path to meaning. I would suggest that this is the reason that while Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, sold a very respectable 1 million copies, making it the best-selling atheist book in history, a fundamentalist California preacher named Rick Warren sold 30 million copies of his book, A Purpose-Driven Life. Religion continues to be important and relevant for one central reason. It boasts an expert ability to address the most basic of human needs, which is the human will to matter. In one way or another, Yom Kippur has always challenged us to examine our place in the universe, and if our methods of doing so have changed, such examinations remain within the spirit of this day. So I would like to explore with you this morning an alternative route to meaning, one that is wholly naturalistic, one that is in ways quite different from faith-based propositions, has the power to provide non-theistic humanists with a path toward living meaningful, purpose-driven lives, even as we simultaneously embrace science's conclusion that we do not occupy the center of the universe. The idea that we're going to consider this morning was actually inspired by one of my favorite thinkers, the philosopher, novelist, and historian Rebecca Goldstein. She grew up as an Orthodox Jew, became a secular humanistic Jew, going on to a life of achievement, including a MacArthur Genius Grant, several Jewish Book Awards, and numerous honors by humanistic organizations. In 1981, she wrote a novel called The Mind-Body Problem. Her heroine is named Renee Foyer. She's a struggling candidate for a PhD in philosophy at Princeton University. She enters into a marriage with a world-famous math genius, believing that by doing so, she will matter. Though talented herself, she's brilliant even. Her idea of what really matters in life leads her to trade on her physical beauty in order to become the most important person in the world to one of the most important people in the world. You can probably guess the outcome of that marriage already. Indeed, it fails spectacularly. And ultimately, Renee Foyer realizes that mattering by association, whether to a world-class mathematician or to a god, or because of anything else not determined by making her own mark in the world, is ridiculous and ultimately meaningless. She realizes that the only mattering that, well, matters is the purpose that she creates in life. One of the ways that this character, Renee, gains insight into this is through an innovative concept that she presents throughout the novel, something that the character Renee calls the mattering map. In her own words, the map is a projection of its inhabitants' perceptions. A person's location on it is determined by what matters to him, the kind of mattering that produces his religious perceptions of people, of himself, of others, of who are the nobodies, who the somebodies, who the deprived and who the gifted, who the better never born and who the heroes. One and the same person can appear differently when viewed from different perspectives. It was an intriguing idea, this notion that we all carry within us a map, complete with peaks and valleys and all the other kind of features you would expect to see on a map, that serve as representations of our own perceptions about the significance of our lives, or what can create a significant life for us and for others. Well, Rebecca Goldstein finished writing her novel, and she never gave this idea any further thought. But the idea was powerful, so it took on a life of its own. A number of social scientists, psychologists, sociologists, even economists developed her idea. She recently remarked that she had no idea this was going on until she Googled the Mattering map and found more hits for it than for herself. Two academics, George Lowenstein and Carl Moen, proposed that there are Mattering maps for each individual, for every social environment, and for societies as a whole. And that how we make decisions about how we make our way through life depends very much on which Mattering map we choose. One of the most popular of all Mattering maps is the one that is offered by religious faith, and it is brilliantly designed. Its peaks of meaning are the love and approval of the Creator, with whom people are said to have a special bond or a covenant. It confers automatic meaning and status and importance on us in much the same way that a parent's devotion functions for beloved children. On the religious Mattering map, meaning and purpose are located on those peaks that we ascend to accept our Creator Parent's gifts of worth and status, such as the acceptance of a unique covenantal partnership with God that is embraced by virtually every version of conventional religious Judaism. But regardless of the specifics, every religious Mattering map offers the possibility of a life filled with purpose and meaning and importance conferred upon people by the acceptance of a beloved status and their centrality in the universe. If what I'm saying is true, and religion's important and enormous accomplishments are really due to the fact that it offers the possibility of a life of meaning, then humanists had better start taking this incredibly important task much more seriously. Because there is a growing number of people in the world who are embracing science's answers about how we got here, and that is all well and good and even important. But as they do, they are beginning to search for purpose and meaning in life. And many of them are suffering. Because bereft of the foundations of a life of meaning built on a relationship with God, they have no idea where to turn. As humanists, we must be prepared to help guide them and ourselves toward designing a Mattering map that is suited to our worldview, while helping us to overcome our uncertainties and insecurities about our self-worth and better evaluate that of others. They must be consistent with our naturalistic philosophy of life. Last June, at the American Humanist Association's annual meeting, I had the opportunity to hear another great humanistic philosopher named Andy Norman. He spoke about the fact that there is no greater responsibility for humanists than to provide the kind of guidance and wisdom that will help people to explore questions of how and why our lives can truly matter. And to do so, he suggests, we might want to turn to Rebecca Goldstein's Mattering map concept and consider our own humanistic version. A map that he calls Humanism's Big Picture Mattering Map of What Matters and Why. First, I'll give you an overview, a bird's eye view of our map. We're going to discuss 10 different features on this map and the consequences that each of them hold, together with the possibilities that each of them suggest for crafting lives of real purpose and meaning. He's given these features a place name, and I generally use them, but some of them I'll change as I take on the role of guiding us on our journey through the landscape. Our first stop is at a place that we will simply call naturalism. Naturalism is the most stable feature on our mattering map. It's the foundation of every stop that will follow. Our acceptance of a naturalistic philosophy of life is the basis of our humanism. It is our confirmation that we are part of a natural order composed of matter, governed by laws of nature, in a universe that is completely indifferent to our fate. This feature stands in contrast to the religious concept of mattering, offering a stark but significant alternative. Because to accept this principle is to accept such ideas as our existence does not confer upon us objective importance or significance to the universe. Neither a creator nor the universe itself has any interest in us or what happens to us. Nor will we experience any lifetime beyond this one, which means that we must make the most of this sole opportunity that we have to live life to its fullest. Carl Sagan famously reminded us that there are billions and billions of galaxies, each of which contain billions and billions and billions of stars. This we must accept, along with its corollary, its natural consequence. Also beautifully articulated by Dr. Sagan, we do not live in a privileged reference frame. We move on with our journey. We come next to a feature that we might call methodological naturalism. Earlier I talked about science. That is methodological naturalism. Because though we use the word science colloquially as if it's some kind of independent thing, it's not. It is in fact the method that we employ in order to determine to the best of our current abilities what is real and what is the product of our imaginations. The scientific method does not require us to say that all is known or even can be known, but it provides us with a set of techniques, procedures, and standards, very high and exacting standards, for determining what we can know to be true and real. Recently, we hosted a talk here brought to us by Michigan Center for Inquiry of a prominent atheist blogger named Greta Christina. She made a very interesting statement in the course of her presentation. She claimed that we, non-theistic types, seek to live in reality. After her talk, I was asked by a friend in attendance if this was really a meaningful way of distinguishing our worldview from that of others. After all, doesn't everyone maintain that they're living in reality? My response was that while I happily grant that people are certainly entitled to their own reality, what we mean by reality is that which is evidence-based, that which can be measured, observed, and tested. This, for us, is the essence of reality. And in order to uncover it, we employ and highly value methodological naturalism, science. As humanists, we have agreed to accept its findings, even if we readily acknowledge that they are always provisional. And we value these discoveries as more useful and real than anything that may be provided by revealed wisdom traditions. One of the most useful and real of all scientific discoveries is also the next stop on our journey. It is the explanatory power of our Darwinian origins, evolution by the means of natural selection. If you have visited me in my office, you may have noticed that the second most prominent work of art after my A4O reposter is a picture of Charles Darwin. it is difficult to overstate the significance of his contribution to a naturalistic view of the world. He and those who followed challenged all conventional thinking about our place in the universe. For if cosmology has revealed the insignificance of our place, Darwinian thought has given us something important in exchange. And that is the realization that every single life form on this planet, from the smallest microbe to the human race itself, are all related. We are quite literally kin. And when we appreciate our relationship to every other organism, we can better appreciate the fact that every other human being is part of our human family. That we are all the product of our environment, of nature, slowly but determinedly selecting those traits and features that ultimately wound up producing us. And that even if a feeling of self-worth is not bestowed upon us through the special creation of a creator, we can certainly appreciate the magnificence of the process itself. For from random mutations, nature selected those which produced features and traits that enhanced our ability to survive. And it is these traits that make us, well, human. Among these traits is the one that merits a great deal of appreciation and understanding, and that serves as the next feature on our map. It is our evolved psychology. Last night, I spoke about how evolutionary psychology, excuse me, and a theory about how it simultaneously produced both the faculty of reason and one of the great obstacles to reason known as confirmation bias. Well, our psychological evolution produced many other things too. Among these are the human attributes and qualities that we share with every other human on this planet. Natural selection helped us to evolve as a highly social species, where each of us seeks to nurture and be nurtured. It equipped us with wonderful ways to create attachments, which we have named love, loyalty, and affection, and with the ability to engage in benevolence toward one another. And these are just a few. 7 million years of human evolution also provided us with tools that help us deal with some of the harsher realities of human existence by making it possible for us to experience courage and internal strength and hope, along with an aesthetic sensibility that enables us to create art or appreciate aspects of our immediate surroundings or the universe itself in ways that create a sense of awe and wonder that uplift and inspire us. Of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows in the human condition. We also evolved to experience selfishness, resentment, hate, jealousy, and despair, some of the things that we examined in this morning's service. But our ability to appreciate or overcome these and other human traits and qualities need not be bound to the idea that they were bestowed upon us from on high. There is greater power in acknowledging that every single one of the things that make us truly human conferred a survival advantage upon our ancestors, and that nature carefully selected those traits which best assisted us in pursuing our basic needs, interests, and desires. Even as we accept that as modern human beings, we must continually evaluate the means by which we meet those basic needs, interests, and desires, pursuing them within ethical and moral boundaries. In order to accomplish this, we must overcome a spectacular obstacle, and it is the next feature on our mattering map, what Dr. Norman calls the I matter more illusion. Imagine a world where we categorically reject any notion that an individual or group, whether ourselves or others, somehow matters more than any other. If we can imagine such a possibility, then we can begin to appreciate the necessity of overcoming our illusory notion that any of us matters more than any other. On our mattering maps, this is the place where we realize that it is not enough to simply find meaning and purpose in our lives. We must do so in ways that are ethical and moral, characterized by a recognition that human dignity, which we as humanists define as the assumption of the fundamental autonomy, agency, and freedom of every person, is also the birthright of every human being, and that the realization of this birthright for any one of us necessarily requires its realization for every one of us. Picture what we could accomplish if each of us as individuals and collectively could overcome the illusion that we somehow matter more, that some are chosen while others are not, that some are important while others are inconsequential. Overcoming this illusion is one of the greatest challenges that the human race faces. We continue to live in a world of exceptionalism, refusing to engage another key capacity, the sense of empathy, in order to better understand what every human shares in common, and in turn join hands to create the conditions by which every human life will matter. Because every one of us, every single human, possesses the will to matter to someone. And that is the next stop on our mattering map. Were I the guru on top of the mountain that the seekers ascend to divine the meaning and purpose of life, I would give you this advice. If we want our lives to mean something, then first and foremost, we should make sure that we are important to others, that we matter to someone. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. It's basically the entire plot of the movie, It's a Wonderful Life. I would suggest, however, that if there is one sure way to keep us from despair, it is to find a way to matter to others. This act of mattering to others, of playing a significant and positive role in the lives of other people, and lifting them up to a point where they know that they matter too, is fantastically important. But there's a catch. For surely by now, you have picked up on one of the underlying assumptions of our big picture mattering map of what matters and why, which is that there is no single way to matter. Each of us must choose our own specific paths. This is why I so greatly appreciate the next feature of the map, an idea proposed by perhaps the greatest living humanistic philosopher, Dr. Daniel Dennett. He has articulated one of the most elusive keys to our existence, something that he calls the secret to happiness. What you say? There really is a secret to happiness? Well, Dr. Dennett's characterization may be a bit of an overpromise, but it's still quite a powerful idea. And it's this. The secret to happiness is to find some idea that is bigger than you are and dedicate your entire life to it. What does Dr. Dennett mean by this? Well, one of the most misunderstood facets of religion is that when it proposes that people devote their lives to God, it's not just God that religion is talking about, but also the idea that there are attributes assigned to God. And sometimes these are wonderfully big and grand ideas. The most beautiful parts of religion teach love and peace and other highly laudable values. But religion assigns their importance to God's hopes for our world, expressed through commandments, or prophets, or revealed texts. What Dr. Dennett points out so beautifully is that secular humanists, too, can find ideas that are bigger than ourselves to which we may dedicate our lives. What each of us chooses will be highly individual and personal. And that's topic, of course, merits its own presentation, maybe next year. But so long as we choose moral and ethical pursuits, we should all consider the potential for happiness that is rooted in dedicating our lives to ideas that are larger than our own personal aggrandizement or status or prestige. So let it be something that reflects really grand ideas, something that transcends our own concerns, and pursue them like crazy. Because as the next feature of our map proposes, well-being, human flourishing is our ultimate goal. That's what really matters. Simply stated, in other words that are similar to what we've used before, a life that matters is one that matters to everyone. This brings us to the penultimate feature. Really, this is an obstacle. And it's one that every humanist must be very careful to avoid. That is the temptation of nihilism. The sense that nothing really matters, that life has no meaning or purpose. Since people first began contemplating the extraordinary vastness of the universe and its indifference to our existence, nihilism has occupied the darkest corner of naturalistic philosophy. Recently, a family member of mine watched the first episodes of the new Cosmos series. You know, in its first few moments, it reveals our extraordinarily remote and infinitesimally small location in time and space. And she said to me, how in this vastness can we really matter? Why does anything matter? Lacking the time to discuss every feature on my humanistic mattering map, I took a shortcut directly to this feature of the map, this obstacle called nihilism. This is the most significant place to consider the significance of place. Because even for all the smallness of our physical place in reality, and Sagan's observation that we do not occupy a privileged frame of reference in the universe, we need not be important to the universe itself in order to be important to each other. Because the lovely part of accepting the fact that we live in a universe that's like this is that instead of worrying about how much we mean to it, we can concentrate all of our energies on how much we mean to each other. And here's another quote from Sagan, a bookend to his observation about not occupying a privileged frame of reference. For small creatures such as we, the vastness is bearable only through love. We need not matter to the universe entire. It is enough to matter to ourselves and to others. And frankly, it's going to have to be enough, because it's all we're going to get. Finally, we have arrived at the last feature on our big picture humanistic mattering map of what matters and why, and it is the highest peak on our map. It is the mountain of justice and fairness and honesty and ethics and morals. What we might call the principle of the equality of mattering. It is the necessity that we recognize and appreciate that all human lives matter and that they all matter equally. When we can finally all agree on this feature on our mattering maps, and that it belongs on every person's mattering map, regardless of whether it's a humanistic or religiously based path to meaning, then we will finally put aside sexism, racism, ethnocentrism, and every ugly related idea that who we are and why we matter is in any way related to our race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, or our relationships or lack thereof with deities who love and regard us, and whose regard for us derives from covenants or other bonds that were conferred upon us because we are Jews or Christians or Muslims or specific kinds of Jews or Christians or Muslims or anything else. Only then will we and our children and everyone's children inherit a world that, While it was not created especially for us, and it does not occupy the center of the universe, is nevertheless the center of us. Thank you. I hope that those of you who have the need will join us again at 4:30 for our memorial service. I would like to invite Maureen Zimmer to read our concluding passage, and then we will sing a lovely song called Days Pass, Hayami, Kofi.
So proud to follow Rabbi. Not a scholarship, no. Everyone sang. Everyone suddenly burst out singing, and I was filled with such delight as prison birds must find freedom, winging wildly across the white orchards and dark green fields, on and out of sight. Everyone's voice was suddenly lifted, and beauty came like the setting sun. My heart was shaken with tears, and horror drifted away. Oh, but everyone was a bird, and the song was wordless. The singing will never be done.
And now you're invited to rise and sing our closing song, Hayami Olfim, Days Pass.
Good Shabbos, good Yom Kippur, Happy New Year.